Hi BookTube, it's Amy. I'm here with the next segment of my 2,000 subscriber Q&A. So I will continue on here with the questions that you left for me. So Wild for Classics asks, what I hope to pursue as an occupation and what my dream occupation will be. So I did finish up my master's degree a little over a year ago, and I'm currently working as a business analyst. I can't go too much into detail about what I do, but it is for a fairly major organization, and I work in the transformation department, currently doing a project on quality. So I've got all sorts of wonderful opportunities to go to workshops and to take certifications and courses, which are of course excellent for career development. So I would say that I'm enjoying this job. Perhaps it's not my dream job, but I do intend to stay in the general field. I do intend to stay in business and working as a business analyst. An enthusiastic reader says 2,000, that's great, well deserved. Thank you very much. Bookish Islander says, congratulations Amy, you have a great channel. Here's my question for you. What BookTube related advice would 2020 Amy give 2015 Amy? So I think the number one thing I would tell 2015 Amy is to relax a bit. So when I started my channel, I was incredibly nervous, and I could definitely not talk naturally to the camera as I do now. For a good portion of my life, I had issues with social anxiety, and that did seep into my early attempts to join BookTube. So I tried, I think, a couple of times to film a BookTube video before I finally was able to film my first one and post it. And my early videos, if you've been with me that long, were very scripted, they were very choppy, and they were choppy because I had to edit myself every other sentence, sometimes every other word, which led to some pretty painful things that are now on private. And that was because I was so nervous I couldn't put together a sentence coherently without stuttering. And so I would edit out those stutters, and it was quite painful to film, to edit, and probably to watch at the time. But I've gotten better over time, and so I would just tell myself to relax a bit, not to take it so seriously, and just to enjoy it. At the beginning, I was very concerned, what are the people watching this going to think? How do I interact with the people in this community? When I post a comment on someone else's video, are they going to take it the wrong way? Did I use the right word choice? Are they going to like me? But over the years, I've definitely relaxed a bit. I've definitely learned to enjoy the filming process a lot more. And so, I would tell myself to relax. I would tell myself to enjoy. And I would tell myself that this is going to be one of the best things that you've ever done, and it's going to become a large and enjoyable part of your life. It's going to be a community that you can turn to for pleasure, for escape, and for support when needed. It's going to be something that you will have in the depths of grad school when you are stressed, in the depths of grad school when you are depressed, and in those beautiful summer days when you are enjoying life and enjoying Ottawa, and you want to share with someone the wonderful books that you've been reading. So that's what I would tell 2015 Amy, who was filming in the shared bedroom at her parents' house, halfway across the province. So Justin says, congrats, outside of books, what art, specific songs, paintings, etc. would you say have moved you most? So if we're talking visual art, I am intensely moved by the paintings by the Group of Seven and Tom Thompson. It's really that style of art that moves me. But music is probably what moves me the most after books. I listen to a lot of music, and my favorite genre is country music, because country music has songs that move you really like no other genre. And so I got hooked on country music when I was in high school. I was about 14 or 15 at the time. And the story I like to tell is that I had got hooked on Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift was played everywhere. I was obsessed with the song Tim McGraw. I was obsessed with Teardrops on My Guitar. I used to quite pathetically look at this guy in my middle school art class while Tears on My Guitar played in the art classroom. Quite nostalgic about that. But I was obsessed with that. And then her second album came out with Love Story on it and White Horse. Now, I didn't have internet in my house, and so I was sort of stuck in the previous generation where you had your cassette tape and you would scroll the radio dials looking for your favorite songs, hoping to catch the whole thing. And so I had these mixtapes with song fragments. And one day I was scrolling through, I was looking for Taylor Swift. I wanted to be able to record the entirety of Love Story. And Love Story was being played on the pop stations, which is what I was listening to at the time. Avril Lavigne was really big at the time. Birthday parties when I was 12, everybody wanted to listen to Girlfriend, that sort of thing. And I was looking for Taylor Swift on the radio. Scrolling through, I hear a song that I recognize, and so I stop. It's not Taylor Swift, but it's a song that I recall from several years earlier, and it was a Blake Shelton song. And so I stay for the Blake Shelton song. I stay for Austin, and I say to myself, I remember this song. I loved this song when it first came out. And then I start to hear other songs I recognize. And I realize it's the genre for me. And so I start tuning in to the Country Countdown every Saturday, and that becomes my thing. In high school, I did volunteer work at a local thrift store every Saturday, and there was a little radio in the corner. And so at 1 o'clock, I would tune in for the Country Countdown. And I recall especially the Country Countdown in 2010, 2011, because I listened religiously every Saturday. And so that's really how I got hooked on country. But over the years, I've listened to some of the classic, I've listened to the modern, I've discovered Canadian country music. And so some of the songs that have moved me the most. The first time I heard Miranda Lambert's The House That Built Me, I think I cried over that one. Dean Brody's song Footsteps of a Giant, cried over that one. Brett Eldridge's Raymond, Blake Shelton's Austin, and The Baby. At the moment, I am pretty obsessed with Tennille Townes' More Hearts Than Mine. Gabby Barrett's I Hope, that one's pretty emotional. I could do a whole list. In fact, I could do a whole video on the country songs that I love and that have moved me. The best country songs do one of two things. They tell a story and they make you cry, or they inspire you and make you want to dance. And I've got empty floor space, so Just use your imagination about what happens when I'm listening to the radio and one of my favorite country songs comes on. I do have concert tickets to see Miranda Lambert this year. I'm seeing Old Dominion this year. Last September, I saw Dean Brody when he played Ottawa. So country is definitely my genre, and next to books, country music is what moves me the most. I'm often left cold by a lot of visual art, but music definitely moves me. Tim Johnson says, congratulations, I have 2 questions for you. Have your reading habits changed since starting your channel? What are some of your favorite quotes or scenes from a book? So I should have prepared for this one, but I didn't. So perhaps I will return to this question in the next segment that I do of this Q&A. But I can answer the first part in terms of how my reading habits changed since I started the channel. So even before I started my channel, I was in the habit of taking notes in and about the books that I was reading. But since I started the channel, I've gotten more in the habit of tailoring my notes towards what I will most likely want to talk about when I talk about that book on this channel. And I think that's been a good thing because BookTube has definitely forced me to think more critically about what I'm reading. There were definitely books in the past where I would breeze right through them without even processing them, but BookTube has forced me to process almost everything I read with the expectation that I want to be able to say something intelligent about it when it comes time to film my Friday reads or film a discussion video about it. So that's definitely been a positive thing. And I guess the way I pick up books has changed a bit. Often I'll be inspired to finally pick up a book when somebody talks about it, or I'll be inspired to read an author. So for instance, Anthony Trollope. I have BookTube to thank for my finally picking him up, which is, an excellent thing. And so that's another positive that has changed in my reading habits. I'll often give authors a chance based on what others have said about that author, which is very different from the way I used to read. I used to be very much, impulsive, pick up here and there, whatever I happen to stumble across. And what's changed is now I sometimes listen to what other people have to say about that author. Other times I don't. Okay then, so Vladimir Ramirez says, may you favorite this comment, I'm in love with you. Well, I suppose I should favorite that one. Not a question there, but all right. Then he has another question in a separate comment. My question is, are you a fan of H.P. Lovecraft? If you are, which stories do you like? So I've read a little bit of Lovecraft, but not all that much. I did used to own a big Barnes & Noble sort of omnibus edition of his stories that I had picked up when I was visiting down in the States at one point, but I never really read a lot of it, and I'm not sure it's really my genre. It's not something I've ever really been able to get into. But never say never. Perhaps I will rediscover it at some point and enjoy it. Oh, here's an interesting question. Bookish Brian wants to know if I like sports, what my favorite sport is, my favorite activity to participate in, to watch. Thought I'd go with a non-book question, he says. So I am not a huge fan of sports. I don't mind watching the occasional hockey game, but I am not someone who likes to participate in organized physical activity. I stay, active and healthy. I walk a lot. I've got an exercise bike I ride, but physical activity that requires interaction with other people is not something I've really enjoyed. And I know it goes back to growing up having extreme social anxiety and finding it impossible to effectively participate in gym class and organized sports and games. And it's not that I didn't want to, it's not that I didn't like the idea, but when you have an irrational fear of social interaction, well, sports are just one big social interaction. I recall distinctly a high school gym teacher screaming at me because I was sort of wandering on the side of the basketball court instead of interacting and running in there and getting the ball. But not something I was comfortable with because that would have made me the center of attention. I think now if I was invited to play some basketball, I would quite enjoy it. But just negative experiences, negative emotions associated with sports. And, at 25, not very many people asking you to come and learn to play basketball or hockey for the first time. I can't even skate, which probably makes me a bad Canadian. Although I'm thinking about getting more into physical activity. A friend of mine actually suggested we both take some Zumba lessons together, which sounds fun, but I'm not really big on sports, not big on watching it. My dad was always into American football. He was never a fan of Canadian football, said it wasn't as exciting. But never enjoyed American football, just didn't get it. Didn't understand why anyone would enjoy watching that. Hockey's all right, though. I understand hockey, and I enjoy listening to hockey, if that makes sense. The sound of the skates on the ice, the sticks on the ice, the puck on the ice, that can be a little bit soothing when you're reading a book with that in the background. And I did watch the men's gold medal game at the 2010 Olympics on TV. Good job, Sidney Crosby, on helping us win gold. But that's probably the only complete sports game I've ever watched. Not a big fan of sports, so I understand a lot of people like that, but not something I've ever enjoyed or ever really understood. I just don't get it. It doesn't make logical sense to me that would be something people would enjoy watching. So Sean D. Standfast says, congratulations on 2K subs, Amy. Well done. Thank you very much. Siriella says, congratulations, Amy. Could you tell us how you program your recreational reading while doing grad school? So with grad school, when I was in that for slightly over 2.5 years, and there really was no program. Grad school was sort of one long blur/binge on everything. So you don't really realize how tough of an experience grad school is until you're out of it. And you realize that your eating habits are better, you drink less, and you stress less. But with grad school, I would basically often read for escape. I would read when I could get it. I would read to avoid doing other things. I would read because it was the only thing I could fathom doing some days. And for me, grad school was pretty much study, go to work, read. Study, go to work, read. That was all I did for those 2 years. And it wasn't really a difficult decision to fit reading into my life because there is no life, there is no Amy without her books. I cannot fathom functioning without reading. It's just something that has always had a place in my life and probably will always have a place in my life regardless of what I'm doing. And it's funny that I should say, after grad school, I've been drinking less, and I really have. This is my first bottle of wine that I've purchased in 2020. So I'll leave it here for now and I'll continue on in a couple of minutes with the rest of these questions.